interesting is a topic that some people get turned off by that word, but it is an essential part of how we function as human beings. I believe that how we create, how we move our lives forward, how we heal ourselves, how we experience life has to do as much with the physical world as with what's going on inside. So I'm going to ask those of you who feel skeptical to keep an open mind here and to look at this as a discussion on a thought process of what's going on inside your head so that you can move through life more effortlessly. And Sarah, you've got an amazing story of bounce back and of success. I'd love for you to share that with us.
So I was married for 10 years in a relationship that was filled with domestic violence. And my story was one that I was so disempowered. I was a quote-unquote housewife. I had 2 children and I had to learn how to survive. I was in constant survival mode because my husband at the time was taking away any sense of self-worth that I had. So I had to learn how to build up my self-esteem in such oppressive situations that I had to turn to the universe for guidance, and I had to learn how to navigate myself emotionally. So as much as it was difficult at the time, I had to learn how to see the blessing and then work with that as a blessing.
So you had this man who was, in a way, depreciating you, making you smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yes.
What happened next?
So I decided that enough was enough, and I started using Twitter and social media. So this was around 2008, 2009, where I had experienced so many years of loneliness and isolation because I never told anybody about the abuse. And so I decided, I'm going to start connecting with people, start getting a sense of myself, and that started to gradually build my self-esteem. And I ended up meeting somebody at a Twitter meetup and having an affair with that guy. And it wasn't by any means the right way to dismantle a relationship because there are many conscious ways to do that, but he was the catalyst for the change. And what happened from that point was that I decided that I needed to leave because it wasn't leaving one man for another that was going to help me. It was when I felt brave enough to leave. And I asked the universe for help and guidance. And it got so bad with the violence at home that...
So this wasn't just like he wasn't just abusing you verbally, he was abusing you physically.
It was every kind of abuse you could imagine, physically, emotionally, sexually, spiritually, all sorts of different ways. And so I really had this warped sense of who I was in the world. And I thought that I needed to be rescued in order to pave a better way for myself. And with 2 children at the time, it was very difficult to trust that I could provide for myself because everything around me told me that I couldn't survive on welfare. I couldn't go out there into the world on my own. And after I confessed to my first husband about having the affair, he destroyed every single item that I owned. All I had left was the clothes that I was wearing on my back.
Wow.
And I had a MacBook. He smashed it with a hammer. He cut my desk in half with a hacksaw. He tore up beautiful old photographs I had. And it was only when he destroyed my stuff that I called the police and I got him arrested. Never once in the 40 times that he had physically assaulted me did I call the police, but it was when he destroyed my things. And so we went to court and I got an intervention order. And you know what I did next? I stayed after all of that. And then I stayed under the same roof and the violence got worse and worse. So it was really getting to a very intense point. And I pleaded with the universe and I said, come on, show me an inspired idea. Give me something that I can do. And since I was building my social media presence, I decided that I could start teaching people about how to connect with other people on social media. And on the Friday, I decided to leave. And on the Monday, I had manifested $12,000 in my PayPal account that would facilitate just leaving.
So you had created an online course on connecting through social media?
Yes. So that was the way that I thought, okay, so I could manifest 12 people to pay me $1,000 each so I could coach them for 12 weeks. Wow. I had an internet connection and I had an understanding of how people could use social media authentically. And so that's when I manifested the money to leave. And so I left with literally that money, the $12,000 to start my new life, took my 2 children and my 2 suitcases and I started my life of freedom.
How old were your kids?
3 and 8.
Wow,
3 and
that's
8.
really young.
Yeah, so they were little.
Out of curiosity, Sarah, it seemed that you were really powerful on Twitter. You had built a presence. You, in a matter of a few days, got people paying you $1,000 to coach them on Twitter. Mm-hmm. You had the balls to call the cops on this abusive husband. Why did you stay with that for so long?
Because I didn't feel worthy. And I didn't feel like there was an alternative path for me. I really believed, as a person interested in spirituality, that forgiveness was the key, and that staying there, I was learning something, I was growing, and I loved him. And I know it sounds crazy to say it out loud, but I loved him, and there was so much value. And I realize now that I wasn't supposed to understand that I had the option of leaving until I was ready. So I don't regret anything. I'd do it all over again if I knew. If I knew what I would be experiencing now.
So you were being abused physically, verbally, mentally. You had this man who was taking a hammer to your frickin' MacBook, and yet you felt love for him. Yes. You were practicing forgiveness. Yes. You believed this was the spiritual way. Do you think you were right to feel that way?
Yes, I do.
But what about other women out there who might be in this situation, who might be abused by these dangerous jerks?
Yeah, it's very important.
What would be your advice to them?
To understand your self-worth, first and foremost, and think of the safety of the children. I mean, I'm not advocating by any means to stay in a violent marriage that compromises any sense of safety, but there is a lesson in any pain that we experience in our lives.
You're right. And I want to do a quick detour here. For those of you who might be wondering, what could they possibly be in terms of a lesson in this awful situation, check out the episode with Neil Donald Walsh, where we talk about forgiveness. We talk about the fact that assholes sometimes come in our life as part of the universe's plan to get us to really live our true potential. In your case, the asshole was your ex-husband. My case, the asshole was an ex-business partner. So these things sometimes happen. But if you are in this situation, Sarah, what would be your advice to people?
To remember that the universe is training you, not testing you. Because so often, especially in the spirituality space, people say, oh, the universe is testing me. It's testing my patience, stretching my patience as far as it goes. But it's really about training.
What's the difference between testing and training?
Testing is when I think training, for instance, is when you are being strengthened, when you are building that immunity to whatever happens in your life and you know that it happens for a divine purpose. Testing is when you're seeing it as something that's an inconvenience and you attach drama to it.
I like that. Now, again, I want to make sure that there's absolute clarity here for anybody watching who might be in an abusive partnership or relationship. I had a business partner who mentally depreciated me and insulted me and made me feel so worthless that I couldn't part ways from the partnership because I felt that he had all the knowledge and I was insignificant. And sometimes we fall into these partnerships where this happens, right? And finally, when I was emboldened enough to step away, I forgave him. So I have no issues with him right now. If he was here, I would give him a hug and treat him as a friend. But I set the boundary. When I developed enough self-worth, that's when I could set the boundary and say, dude, I don't think this is working out. I'm going to step away and I'm going to do this on my own. So in my case, I set that boundary. I want you to explain, Sarah, the difference between forgiveness and going, oh, I'm not worthy, let me continue with the abuse, versus forgiveness and setting a boundary.
It's really about building the awareness around what the relationship is giving you and how it's manifesting. And for anybody that has experienced addiction in their family, and especially having a loved one that has an addiction to a substance or whatever it is, you can only help that person when they're ready. Everybody tries to get them into rehab or to make them go to a clinic, but it's only when the addict is ready that they can see the situation for what it is and then make the moves. And then all of the things have to line up for that to happen and facilitate the exit points. So I can see throughout the 10 years that I was married that there were so many exit points, so many different portals to transformation that I could have stepped through to make my break for freedom. But now I see that every time that I didn't do that, the lesson got bigger, and then the lesson got enormously huge, and there wasn't really an option to say no to the invitation to walk through that portal anymore. But it's about being aware of it. So awareness is really the key to ask yourself, what do I want? How do I want to feel? And then gradually, I mean, that's the key of manifestation, feeling and emotion. It's not thoughts. And so when I realized that I had the power to guide my energy, guide my emotions, that's when I took my power back.
Now, it seems that as you're going through this, you were dabbling with this idea of manifesting, yes. Right? You mentioned that you generated 12K from Twitter just as you needed to leave. What was going on there? What was this conversation that you were having with the universe? How did you stumble upon this, and what exactly were you doing?
Sure. I had studied meditation for many years, and so I was so interested in energy and how that works. And I knew that feeling grateful for no matter what showed up was really the key. So every point on the journey, even taking it down to moment by moment, not being overwhelmed by the banks calling me and asking me to pay the money. It was taking one day at a time and knowing everything that I need, I have within me in this moment, and not rejecting any part of the experience. I didn't understand that until many years later, that the negativity actually serves a purpose. But I knew that gratitude, appreciation, joy, creativity, and being present, especially with my children who needed that help at that time, was going to ultimately facilitate my freedom.
So what happened next after you got out?
After I got out, I moved states, and I moved by the beach, which was fantastic. It really recalibrated my soul. So I got away, and I was on welfare. And that was really tough because I had all of these bills. I had never been financially responsible in my adult life. So I was nearly 30 years old. I'd never paid a bill. I'd never paid rent. I'd never lived on my own. So I had to rebuild my life from scratch. And there were some days I couldn't even feed my children. So I was faced with this very real reality of, how am I going to do this? And so I just still stayed present and grounded in the moment. And I had a very dear friend that I had met on Twitter when I was building up my social media presence, and we fell in love online 6 months after I had left my marriage.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I think it's always beautiful how people are so afraid to leave relationships sometimes, but sometimes it just lets you step into something so much more beautiful.
Yeah. And so I established this connection, this great bond with this guy that lived in Hollywood and I lived in Australia. And he wanted to come out and see me for 11 days, and he never left. We got married.
Well, I met you guys when you guys attended A-Fest some 5 years ago.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
And you guys are a beautiful couple.
Thank you.
So you went deeper and deeper and deeper into the art of manifesting.
Yes.
You now have a book coming out. This is Sarah's book called Dear Universe. This is actually a fake book. It's a flap that publishers provide when an interview like this is happening before the book is actually released. But this book is coming out January?
April 2nd, 2019.
April 2nd, 2019. It's called Dear Universe, 200 Mini Meditations for Instant Manifestation. So, and what you're going to get to experience here is a meditation. Sarah's going to be leading you through a experience where she's going to guide you through one of her meditations for manifesting. So Sarah, now let's get to the topic of manifesting. Okay. I want you to explain how you understand this topic.
Okay.
Okay, and what I appreciate about you is that you came from pain, you came from hell. I mean, there are people who are born into wealth who talk about manifesting, and I'm like, yeah, right. But you literally came from a fucked up relationship, from being on welfare to becoming who you are today, right? Getting that incredible book deal, having a thriving business, and now here in Bali, speaking on stage at A-Fest. What was the journey? What were your lessons? What are some of the key models of reality or the key systems that you can share with our people?
Sure. So the first one and the most important one is to spark a conversation with the universe. It's that all-pervading power that is within all of us, that super consciousness. And what we understand about consciousness is that it expands, it grows. And when you tune into that, then magic happens. And you tune into it by allowing yourself to feel and being aware of those feelings, moment by moment, how you guide your energy, how much joy. I really believe that joy is the currency of consciousness, and that the more we can incorporate joy and laughter and fun and lightheartedness into our lives, then it just kind of expands. Yeah.
Right. That's an Instagram quote, right?
Oh, is it? Okay,
joy
great.
Is the, joy is the currency of consciousness.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So go on. So you talk to the universe. What does that look like?
So there are two pivotal points that unfold when you connect with the universe. It's usually through pain. So many of my moments after I'd experienced the abuse, I'd kind of turn to the universe and say, "Dear universe," the title of the book, how do I move through this? Show me an inspired idea, help me. So it's creating almost like a best friend that you have, that you create that connection that's always there for you, that loves you unconditionally. And the second point is through pleasure. So, moments that we're so immersed in bliss and intuition and just loving and connecting to one another is the other point that you connect to the universe. But mostly it's through pain. And people don't usually see that. People don't see the pain that they're experiencing as a blessing. And that when they feel those negative emotions, that's actually a beautiful clue how they can expand the next chapter of their life.
Well, let's look at some of the scientific data for that, right? So you said we connect with the universe through pain and through joy. So gratitude. Science has now showed that gratitude of all human characteristics has the highest correlation with well-being. In other words, if there's one characteristic that you could adopt as a part of your daily life, it's gratitude. And then, in terms of pain, right, in transformation theory, we call that the distressing dilemma or the disorienting dilemma. And academic theorists have found that transformation happens often when people go through this disorienting dilemma and their worldview shifts. Google did a study. This was quoted in the book Exponential Organizations by Salim Ismail. And he said that Google found that its best employees were not necessarily people who had degrees in STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, but young people who had gone through a painful, tragic moment in their past. And this made them more humble, more kind. It gave them a greater sense of humility, and it made them some of the best Googlers. So there is a lot of evidence that shows that when we go through pain, we transform. And so what you're saying, there is now scientific credibility on this.
Well, what we're seeing is epidemic proportions of loneliness as well. People at a mass scale are experiencing feeling alone and isolated. It's as many as 52% of Americans, mostly young Americans, are experiencing that feeling of isolation behind their phones. They're not connecting with people as much as they need to. And so there's a great opportunity there to connect with that higher power and to navigate whatever they're feeling emotionally. So the other layer of that as well is judgment and how we judge ourselves, especially in the spiritual space. There's a lot of pushing aside of negativity, which is not okay because you become the energy of the thing you judge. So let's say somebody in the office is being negative and you're saying, "Oh, I can't be around them, they're being too negative." But what if you leaned in with curiosity to see it as an opportunity to cultivate compassion? What would happen then? You're not building a boundary between yourself and other people because we're all in this together. I mean, when I say the universe, it's not this far out idea, it's within us. We are the universe. Manifesting is consciousness, and that consciousness is expanding and growing.
Right. So key ideas here as takeaway points. Number one, joy, gratitude. It's the currency of consciousness, right? And there's science behind that. Number two, pain is a form of growth. And the third thing you just said is a very interesting model of reality. The jerk in the office, the people who are annoying us. Think of them as gym equipment to help you grow your muscles of consciousness. If you want to explore that topic further, look at the mentoring conversation I had with Shefali Sabari, also on this program. She goes deep in this particular idea. What else? How else do you create that connection with the universe?
You see yourself in everybody around you, in every situation, and how you can show up with a filter of divine energy, how you can be of service to others. And with that awareness comes this beautiful magic that happens in your life when you can activate the magic of the present moment, because that's the most amount of power we ever have, when we are grounded in the present moment, when we can become aware of what's around us and how we can contribute to that moment.
So that's something I'd like to explore. Why present moment? What's the big deal there?
It's the power of now, which is the title of a very famous book.
Okay, but isn't manifesting about, and this is where I'm asking because I'm unclear on this.
Okay.
Right? Isn't manifesting about thinking about the future? No. About creating a bigger future?
Nope. I think that's one of the biggest myths in the personal development spirituality industry. And there's a quote by a famous New Thought author, Ursula Chesterfield, who said, "Manifestation is the purpose of existence." Everything is a manifestation. The next breath that you take, or the universe is breathing through you, is a manifestation. The fact we can blink our eyelids, think our next thought. And that is a manifestation. And there's so many people that will only be happy when they meet their soulmate, when they manifest the $1 million. But it's about the journey to manifesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that it is about having these, in the words of Esther Hicks said something very similar to Ursula. She said in her work, which is a channel work by an entity that she calls Abraham, she says that the point of souls adopting these human bodies is to experience everything the world has to offer and then shoot out rockets of desire. Mm-hmm. And as you shoot out these rockets of desire, your job is to create. Right?
Yes. And so where my work differs just a little bit is the fact that I'm not rejecting the negative feelings, because I think that fear is a powerful teacher. So when the emotional guidance scale that Esther teaches, which I think is fantastic, there's almost a different level and layer where fear, pain, and failure leave blessings. And that those blessings need to be leaned into with a bit of curiosity to create the expansion.
I like that. That is a very beautiful alternate way of looking at the scale of human emotions.
Because when you reject those emotions, you're rejecting part of the wholeness.
So you don't reject anything then?
No. Well,
If you're feeling, if you're having a shitty day, you embrace it.
Just allow it to be. It's
allow
isness.
Okay, yeah. And you allow it to be, but there's something else you're saying, which I'm starting to pick up on, which is that it's not just about the vision for the future, it's about your present emotional states.
Yes,
right?
That's right.
Now, I've always advocated that present emotional state should be blissful, should be joy. I wrote about that in my book. I call the concept bending reality, having visions for the future, but being happy in the now. But you're adding another layer onto it, which is where you don't always have to be joyful, and correct me if I'm wrong. If you are feeling pain, if you are suffering, if you are feeling fucking ticked off, you embrace it.
Yeah, well, you're okay with what is. You become a silent witness to what's going on rather than immersing yourself in the drama.
What do you mean by silent witness?
You internally witness what you are experiencing with a sense of compassion for yourself, with a sense of awareness for the lesson that the universe is delivering to you. So for an example, I went through a process, and you know this, of 5 miscarriages in a row. And when I finally did get pregnant, at around the 5 or 6 week mark, I had to go to the hospital because I thought, oh, it's going to happen again. And I was sitting in the waiting room, and I decided to write a message to my baby saying that I would be okay no matter whether he or she showed up or not. And it's that space that you come to from non-judgment, from isness, from being comfortable with that uncertainty, that the consciousness can expand and facilitate the instant manifestation.
Wow. Wow. And that resonates with me because I was with you when you had one of those miscarriages. Yeah. I was there as a friend. That's beautiful. How can someone use this idea in their day-to-day life, knowing what you know now? Knowing what you know now, if you are in that abusive relationship and this jerk of a man took a sledgehammer to your laptop, sawed your desk in half, as you're observing that, knowing what you know now, what would you have done?
That's a fantastic question. I would have left.
Immediately?
I would have done whatever I could have done to get out of there. But I believe that the universe delivers the awareness when it's meant to land. And so I now trust in hindsight, because hindsight's very amazing sometimes in how it shows up, that is a reality that you create based on what you are given to interpret the situation. So for anybody going through that, I would definitely say from a logical perspective, leave, but sometimes it's not as easy as that. And then the next best thing you can do is trust. Trust that everything is unfolding in perfect divine timing, as it is meant to. But
so
as long as you're safe.
You would have walked away. Would you have still called the police on him?
Yes, at that moment.
Because forgiveness and pardoning are two very different things.
Very much so, yes.
Now, you've given us a couple of different models to look at this field of manifesting. But how do we put them together? How do we put them together now to actually start manifesting what we want in life?
Okay. So joy, as I mentioned, is one of the best ways to activate that essence, that vibration, that energy of possibility, and also to envision your future.
And is there a technique that you use to bring out feelings of joy?
Yes, I celebrate life as much as I can. I have 4 beautiful children, and we dance, we sing, we play. I mean, play is so incredibly powerful and underutilized. We take ourselves so seriously, and it's time to really break that down and remember that life isn't a dress rehearsal. You only get 100 years if you're lucky, right? So just enjoy every day. Do what you love to do.
I'm smiling because you're here at A-Fest, and as you know, last night we had this incredible party that went on for like 7 hours. And every time I put up pictures of those parties, people will comment, "How dare you say you run a transformation company? All I see are people in swimsuits partying and drinking wine and splashing around in the pool." Yeah, that's so spiritual. I think they're missing the point.
They are. They're
Right.
totally missing the point. People take themselves way too seriously, and they care too much about what other people think. And if they just got rid of that, if they stepped out of that and they remembered that we're all in this together, there's this beautiful fabric of oneness that we're all part of. And that I live in Las Vegas right now. So it's like, there's so much beauty there. People say, "Why do you live in Las Vegas?" I mean, you see the strippers and the people gambling, like the shadow side of humanity. Every part of it is exhibited in Las Vegas, but there's a beautiful side as well.
Right.
But there's even more of a beautiful side when you can lean in and you can see the beautiful human being behind that, and you can see the joy that they're getting. You don't ever dismiss what somebody seeks joy from because they're on their own journey.
That's amazing, right? Because joy is joy. It's an emotional state.
Yeah.
Now, the second thing, okay, so that's one practice, live in joy. And I'm sure you guys can figure out how to make that happen. Now, the second thing you mentioned is to sort of understand the suffering. Walk us through that, because that's not an easy thing to do. When you're going through pain, how do you accept and observe and step into that pain?
Personally, or when you see it experienced by somebody else?
Personally.
Okay, so you get curious about it. You step aside, and it's not a process which is highly personal. You have to step outside and maybe view yourself as a witness, looking in and saying, "Hey, I can see myself from out there, here," and observing it like a play, and seeing how you can show up with more compassion, more self-forgiveness. I mean, these are 2 very underutilized things that we completely overlook.
Self-compassion and self-forgiveness.
Yes.
Where do you draw the line between self-compassion and self-forgiveness and self-pity?
I think it's the difference. It's very subtle, but it's the awareness that you bring to it. So self-pity has the drama attached to it, the poor me, the look at me, validate me, see me. But if you can come to it with a sense of compassion for, hey, I'm a human being and I deserve to be loved, I deserve unconditional love, then that's where the transformation can take place.
So take this down, guys. If you feel that you tend to go into self-pity, that often comes from self-esteem issues, get on YouTube, get on the Mind Valley Talks channel, and Google Marissa Peer. She has a talk called The Biggest Disease Afflicting Humanity, and she talks about and takes you through an exercise to raise self-esteem. I actually had self-esteem work done with Marissa Peer.
Okay.
All of us have self-esteem gaps, and as I mentioned earlier, I've been there, stuck in a horrible business partnership for many years, not realizing who I really was. So don't blame anyone if you feel that way, but Google that talk. It's helped a lot of people. Now, those 2 are 2 really powerful things. What next? How do we then now activate that process of bringing our visions to us?
So you just used a very important key word there, which was don't blame anybody else for that. And now that really stems back to emotional responsibility and not making anybody else responsible for how you feel. So a lot of people tend to say, well, you did this, you didn't make me happy, it's your responsibility. So when you can take ownership and empower yourself by remembering that you are the one responsible for bringing yourself that happiness, then that closes the gap between manifestation everything's manifestation, so it's not really, there's no break-off point or disconnection, but in the awareness that you bring to that you are guiding the ship, you're steering the car of your own consciousness. So that no blaming, no shaming, no expecting other people to show up in a specific way.
Right. And there's a very important idea there, right? So those of you who have done the Awaken the Species quest by Neale Donald Walsch, one of the ideas that he puts forth is this: the master never needs to forgive, for the master understands. And I asked him to explain it further, and what he said is that when you get to a certain state, there is no more blame. You go beyond forgiveness. Someone can hurt you, someone can abuse you, and you don't even need to forgive them because you understand that it's a message. You understand why you are there. You understand that at a soul level, this was something that you designed for yourself as a wake-up call. Is that akin to what you're saying?
I think that would be for a very small amount of people, because that seems like very enlightened understanding of the human condition. The master, yes, but how many people are going to experience that during this lifetime? And if we were all supposed to learn that, why would we be here in the first place? Because we're here to learn, we're here to grow, we're here to fuck up over and over again until we actually get the lessons. And then this is the beauty of life, the fact that consciousness is expanding and developing, and then we can access those higher levels of consciousness.
But if we adopt what you're saying, which is to forgive, to avoid blame, to see it as a journey of consciousness, to see the people who is nagging on us or irritating the frick out of us as simply gym equipment, simply training some muscles of consciousness, we are stepping towards mastery.
Yes, I would say so. One of my favorite quotes is by Rumi, who said that out beyond wrongdoings and right doings is a field, I'll meet you there. And I believe that that's the human playground. That's what we're here to experience and to drop into, the fact that we're all here together. No one's right, no one's wrong.
And so I love what you're saying, because thus far, you've spoken everything about present state experiences. If you look at things such as The Secret, I think that was a remarkable documentary film, but I think it gave many people the wrong idea. It made it seem that it was just about writing down your goals, or just about your thoughts about what you want to attract into your life. But as you're watching this, as you can see, there's so much inner work. It's the embrace of joy. It's having boundaries so that you know how to deal with those situations and people who might be hurting you. It's about self-worth. There are multiple dimensions to it, and all of that is grounded in the present. But now, when we take care of that aspect, right? Being grounded in the present, having the right attitude towards whatever life hurls at us, how do we then now identify our dreams and bring them forth?
Okay. By surrendering to it. I connect with so many people that say, I don't know what I want to do in the world. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know how long I can do the thing I'm doing right now. And I tell them, surrender. I mean, surrender is really the key to manifestation. Because when you can get out of your own way and you can go with the flow, you can tune into your intuition, every step of the process becomes an adventure. So it really is about gaining clarity on what you want. I'm not saying don't be specific, but don't do it to such a point that you create rules around how it shows up. So often, I was having a conversation with someone yesterday that wanted to manifest true love. And I said, do you have a list of qualities and attributes that you want this soulmate to have? And she said, yes, they have to be this way and this way and this way. And I'm like, get rid of the list, tear it up. Because what you're doing is you're creating rules that the universe is not going to adhere to. The universe will bring you what you need, what your soul needs to expand. And so just surrender to it, surrender to what is.
So what is that thought process then? Because surrender as a word can be interpreted in so many different ways. What is that thought process then? Like, are we deciding that we want a soulmate, but we're not specifying what that soulmate should be or look like, or the qualities?
Yeah, it's not getting too heady about it, more feeling-based. So there's beautiful attributes with intention setting, as long as it's coming from your heart, not your head. There's a huge gap between that head and that heart. And a lot of intention setting comes from what people think that they want that will bring them the happiness.
Rather than what they really want, which is often a feeling.
It's always a feeling. Manifestation is feeling-based. It's not about the Tesla on your vision board or the island that you own.
The feeling
you get.
Brings you,
yes.
Right? And so many people might end up with the Tesla and then not like it. Though that's hard, because Teslas are pretty damn sexy cars.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what we seek is a feeling. But what we write down on a manifesting board is an object that we think at this present time will bring us that feeling. I mean, how many of us apply to a job, get that job, and then go, man, I hate this, right? Now, for those of you who want to explore that topic further, check out the work of Mike Dooley. Mike Dooley speaks on this. There is an episode on the same program, so you have access to it, with Mike Dooley, where he talks about the scale of going from desire to feeling and how to know if you're manifesting right. It's a perfect next program to listen to after this conversation. So that's really good. Now, I would love to have you put all of that together and guide us through one of the famous Sarah Prout meditations.
Okay.
And these are the same meditations which are in your book?
Similar. There's 200 mini meditations in there.
Awesome. So if you guys like this process, definitely check out Sarah's book. Are we ready to go?
Ready to go.
Let's do this.
Okay. So close your eyes and take in a few deep breaths and hold them. And exhale, let go of any negativity or resistance or fear. And as you inhale again, breathe in the energy and the essence of limitless possibility. And just exhale and relax. And to begin with, we call upon the energy and the essence of all that is. And we begin with an invocation. Dear universe, thank you for bringing us to this point in time. May we now be permitted to connect to the energy of infinite wisdom and infinite possibility, so that we may be brought back to a state of peace, of poise, of purpose, and of harmony in body, in mind, and in spirit. Just allow yourself to relax into this energy as you listen to these words. Get curious about how you're feeling right now. What have you experienced in the last 24 hours? Tune in and ask yourself 3 words that represent those feelings, good and bad, fear-based or love-based. Greet these words with the energy of compassion. You might be feeling depressed. You might be feeling fearful or anxious. You could be feeling joyful, playful, happy, or lighthearted. What are the 3 words that you have with you that we can begin this process as we move forward with the incredible power of the universe? Now I would like you to imagine that you are in a garden, the most beautiful garden that you have ever walked through in your entire life. Imagine that you can see these exquisite flowers, beautiful colors, purples and pinks, the most vibrant colors that you have ever seen in a garden. You can actually see these plants and these flowers growing as almost like a time-lapse video, and your consciousness as you allow yourself to be present in this moment is contributing to the growth of this garden. There are trees all around you, huge, tall, ancient trees that contain the wisdom of all of your lifetimes combined. These trees also contain the wisdom of the experience of every lifetime combined. All of the people that you have ever met in your life, and their consciousness and their energy and their feelings, and how those feelings, that vibration, contributes to the growth of that garden. And now imagine that you walk up to one of these beautiful large trees. Walk up the garden path, past these beautiful, ever rapidly growing flowers and plants, and fruit. And you see a door at the base of the tree. It's a beautiful gold ornate door with intricately carved patterns and floral motifs. And you hold in your heart those 3 words that you have been experiencing in the last 24 hours, the 3 feelings. You take them with you. And you walk through this door into the timeless, the formless, the other side of reality, the expansion beyond the physical. What does it look like for you? What are you seeing? What shapes are appearing? And you see a light off in the distance. And that light is getting closer and closer to you. And you can see that that light is forming the outline of a being that is here to give you a very, very important message. What does this being look like? Does it have a human form? Does it have an angelic form? Is it an archetype of somebody that you really connect with and resonate with? Or is it somebody that you are inspired by, that you have always wanted to meet? Somebody that you will meet with that will ultimately facilitate the expansion of your consciousness. And that in this moment you have the access point to always go back to this happy place of infinite wisdom and infinite potential to connect with this being. And as this being gets closer, you stretch out your arms as far and wide as they will go, and you wrap your arms around this being. And you say, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here at this point in time with me. I want to tell you how I'm feeling. These are the 3 words that I have been experiencing. These are the 3 feelings that I have been experiencing in the last 24 hours. And you tell this being those feelings. And that being then transmits to you the infinite field of unconditional love and compassion. And whatever you have been feeling has been met with wisdom, with grace, and with understanding. And this process helps to infuse your consciousness with infinite possibility that you can access this point in the beautiful garden, through the door, to the infinite being, to empower you, to remind you that you are energy. You are part of the experience, the exquisite fabric of oneness, the same energy that holds the stars in the sky and the water in the ocean. You are the universe. You are consciousness in its purest form. And your life is helping to facilitate the expansion of this consciousness to strengthen and reinforce the fabric of humanity. And now in this place that we are together, now I want you to visualize a different door, whatever that door is for you. Your favorite color, your favorite patterns, big, small, tiny, big. And now I want you to walk through that door. And on the other side of that door is a sea of faces, of lives that you have impacted through your work, through your mission, and through your message. Now that you have this infinite wisdom within you, you've connected to all that is, the power of the universe is manifested through you. And you can see billions of souls there with you, thanking you, remembering that we are all connected and we are all here to play our role in the facilitation and the expansion of this consciousness. And I want you to stand in stillness in your mind's eye and feel the immense gratitude and humility for the honor and the privilege of impacting so many lives. And how that helps to spark the magic of possibility in the beginner's mind. How it helps to create inspired ideas, to train and educate people to do what you are doing and offering to the world, so that it becomes like holding a mirror up to itself, that you see the infinite visualization of mirrors within mirrors within mirrors, this kaleidoscopic experience of human consciousness. And now imagine that you could choose 3 feelings, empowered feelings, that you could share with just one person. Because what you want for yourself, you want for others. To celebrate the success of others is how you allow the space for it to manifest into your own life. So when you tune into one person, you have the power of impacting billions of people. Because you never know how that reaches somebody else. Now take a deep breath in, breathe in the gratitude of impacting so many people. And breathe out any doubt, fear, or anxiety that you may have that stops you from making the journey from your head to your heart. Your heart space is the portal for transformation. Whatever you are experiencing is the portal for transformation. Good, bad, right, and wrong. So you can face fear with faith and uncertainty with the beauty of certainty. You can manifest that instantly when you remember your power to guide your energy, guide your emotions, and impact the lives of others. And now, imagine yourself back in the garden with the beautiful flowers that are rapidly growing and feeding your soul on every level because you're seeing them, you're feeling them, you're interacting with them. The growth, the beautiful facilitation of human consciousness expressed visually. And ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? How are you feeling? And bring to your mind's eye a person you love, a person that you share connection with. And ask yourself how you can show up and unconditionally love that person on a much deeper level. How can you show up with more compassion, less judgment, and more presence? How can you lean in and listen more to the needs of others? This is your superpower. If the universe could instill or program into you one superpower, it would be being still, paying attention to the present moment and listening, getting curious about what others, especially in relationships, have to share with you. Tune in to that essence of love and how it can create a ripple effect, not only in the lives of the people who are in your immediate environment, in your day-to-day lives, but the people around the world. How this awareness can help to heal humanity. And now take a moment to send love out into the world to people that really need it, that don't feel loved. Help to create that door within their hearts to superconsciousness, to access to the universe, to fully embrace anything that they feel, to rise above fear, to embrace love, and to remember their power. Because our role is to help awaken as many lives as possible to tune in to that infinite field of wisdom and infinite possibility. How does that feel? And now, as this visualization draws to a close, we give thanks to the divine, sublime center of love, of trust, and of truth within each and every one of us for having allowed and facilitated the energy of superconsciousness. So be it, and so it is. When you're ready, please open your eyes.
Thank you, Sarah.
Welcome.
That was an extremely unique experience. I'm at a bit of a loss for words because I went into a different state. I hope you guys enjoyed that. This is Sarah Prout. Once again, I love supporting authors in their books. So if you enjoyed this conversation with Sarah, that's the book, Dear Universe, 200 Mini Meditations for Instant Manifestations. And you should be able to find that just about anywhere. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Those ideas were profound. Let's do a quick recap, okay? The first thing is understand that manifesting is not just about writing down goals or repeating affirmations. It has much to do with inner state work. And some of the most important inner state works that you discussed was putting joy as a dominant emotion, embracing the negativity, being able to listen, to observe, to see it for what it really is. A third one was the idea of having boundaries, knowing that your self-esteem truly matters. Embracing the negativity doesn't mean embracing the abuse that someone might hurl on you. It means knowing when to walk away, but to also see the pattern that the universe might be attempting to unveil for you. The fourth thing that you kind of touched on was a third one was the idea of having boundaries, knowing that your self-esteem truly matters. Embracing the negativity doesn't mean embracing the abuse that someone might hurl on you. It means knowing when to walk away, but to also see the pattern that the universe might be attempting to unveil for you. The fourth thing that you kind of touched on was sort of talking to the universe, communicating with it, as if it is this guide or this higher power or this angelic being that has your help. And was there anything else that you would add to that list?
Just to enjoy life as much as possible, because we're only here for such a short amount of time.
Beautifully said. Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys.